On this island, robots have babies, foxes care for chicks, and geese save the world. But suddenly, the robots declare war on the animals. Can the smartest machine on the planet be defeated? Let's find out. After a severe storm, otters notice something unusual on the shore of their island. This is a shipwreck, among which lies a real robot. The otters accidentally activate it. The robot reveals that it was created by Universal Dynamics. He calls himself Rosem, or simply Rose. Since this robot speaks with a female voice, we'll call him a woman. The tide comes in, and Rose crawls up the rock like a real crab to avoid being swept out to sea. Ross's primary purpose is to help others, but among the local animals, there's no one who truly needs her help. Furthermore, the islanders consider her an unknown monster and are deeply afraid of her. Rose has a well-developed self-study program. She can behave like any animal and learns all the local languages within a few days. Rose tries to give a presentation and talk about her talents, but the animals still don't trust her and remain afraid. Rose climbs a high cliff and signals to her group to take her away from the island. At that moment, lightning strikes it. Ross collapses and shuts down. While the system reboots, raccoons steal some of its components. The robot tries to put everything back in place, but there are too many raccoons. One of them steals Ross's transmitter, and now she can't send a signal to her creators. However, the robot at least manages to get rid of the raccoons. Rose chases the raccoon that stole her transmitter and retrieves its vital component. But at that moment, she encounters a huge grizzly bear. The bear immediately attacks the robot, and Rose tries to escape. A vicious and very hungry grizzly bear chases after her. Ross runs so fast that she accidentally knocks over a large tree, destroys a goose's nest, and falls on the goose that was incubating her eggs there. Only one surviving egg remains in the nest. Inside is a live gosling. Unfortunately, the egg is immediately stolen by a fox named Fing. Rose gives chase and gets the egg back. The cunning fox steals it again. Rose uses all his talents to catch up with the fox, retrieve the egg, and hide it inside his husk. Soon, a little gosling hatches from the egg. He sees a robot and thinks it's his mother. Ross believes she's fulfilled her mission and can return to the factory. She activates her transmitter, but the gosling breaks it. Rose spots a female opossum named Pinktail, who has many babies, and tosses her a gosling. Upon seeing the robot, all the opossums immediately play dead. But Rose doesn't attack anyone. Instead, she tells the possums her story. Pinktail explains that the gosling considers Rose its mother, meaning she's obligated to take care of the little one. The robot immediately sets about fulfilling this task. Pinktail explains to Rose how to be a proper mother. The robot must feed the gosling and also teach it to swim and fly so it can fly south in the fall with the other birds. Rose tries to feed the gosling a pine cone and then lowers it into the water, but the gosling immediately sinks to the bottom. An angry beaver throws him ashore. His flights aren't going so well either. Fing appears in the clearing. He says he can help Rose raise the gosling. However, even together, they don't do a very good job. Rose and Fing steal some honey and Zulia and take some fish from a grizzly bear. The fox eats it all, leaving the gosling hungry. The chick finds a few worms and finally has dinner. Ross says her program doesn't allow harm to living creatures. Fing replies that kindness doesn't help one survive, and all animals must follow their instincts. He hints that the gosling they're raising is very small and weak, and such babies usually don't survive in the wild. But Rose is committed to fulfilling his mission, so he builds them a huge house of trees and stones. The gosling actively helps her. The robot understands that her adopted son needs a name and names the little one Yellowbake. Fing says that children need stories to help them fall asleep faster. He begins his story about a little gosling and his robot mother, who fell to Earth from a large star. Rose doesn't understand the meaning of care and love, so he constantly interrupts and corrects Fing. But together, they finally manage to put the gosling to sleep. Some time passes. Gosling acts like a robot, constantly copying Rose. He's finally learned to swim, though he's not very good and tires quickly. One day, Yellowbake encounters a flock of other geese on the lake. They are all much larger, stronger, and more experienced than our little hero. The other geese learn his story and are amazed at how Yellowbake managed to survive. They soon begin teasing him, and Rose rushes to the rescue. She saves the gosling from predatory fish and crocodiles who would gladly eat such a chick. Several geese overhear Yellowbill calling Rose his mother and tell him the whole truth. Upon learning that Rose is to blame for his family's death, the gosling is deeply offended and angry. Robot explains it was an accident, but Yellowbake can't forgive her. He blames her for his abnormal growth. Rose returns to the shipwreck site to understand what really happened and why she ended up on this island. She launches a presentation about how the factory produced a whole series of specialized robot assistants called Rosum. They were created to make people's lives much easier. Rose finds the remains of robots similar to her and assembles a new, albeit defective, robot from them. Rose names it, or rather, her, Nakodka Finding, and activates her new friend. Nakodka runs diagnostics on Rose and discovers that our heroine has altered her operating algorithms. She needs to get back to the factory immediately. Nakodka hands Rose her transmitter and hangs up. Rose sits on the edge of a tall cliff, wondering what to do next. Seeing a flock of wild geese in the sky, our heroine remembers that Yellowbill still can't fly. She returns to her gosling and tries to teach him to fly. Alas, this is impossible with software and algorithms alone. Rose tries everything he can, but Yellowbake only stays in the air for a few minutes before plummeting back down. Rose turns to a peregrine falcon named Thunderbolt for help. It's the right decision, as Thunderbolt teaches Yellowbake to follow his instincts and control his body so he doesn't tire during flight. Peregrine Falcon also teaches the gosling various cool tricks. The leader of the goose flock, Long Neck, comes to Rose. He will lead the upcoming flight south. In a week, the geese will begin their migration, and Yellowbill must fly with them if he wants to survive. The gosling flies from dawn to dusk to become stronger and more resilient. All the islanders are very worried about him. The day of departure arrives. Long Neck invites Yellowbake to join her flock. Gosling bids farewell to Rose and flies south. The robot's mission is accomplished. Soon the weather begins to get cold, and the animal prepares for hibernation. Rose realizes she loves Yellowbake, but she can't stay on the island because she feels like a stranger. She decides to activate her transmitter after all. However, as soon as the signal reaches Universal Dynamics headquarters, Ross immediately deactivates his beacon. The wild geese fly south. Their flight initially goes well, but then a violent storm erupts at sea. The geese descend in search of shelter to wait out the storm. They end up in a Universal Dynamics greenhouse. The same robots as Rose work there. Unfortunately, they are hostile and consider the geese pests. Panic breaks out in the greenhouse. Yellowbake says that these robots' protocols prevent them from harming living creatures, meaning there's no need to fear them. Long Neck orders our hero to take the flock to safety. But Yellowbake is mistaken. These robots use special guns. To save their flock and buy the yellow-billed goose more time, its Long Neck retracts and distracts the robots. Unfortunately, the brave goose gets shot in the process. Thing emerges from hibernation and meets Rose. He announces that this year's winter on the island will be especially cold, windy, and snowy, and not all animals will survive it. Rose decides to take on a new task. She must take all the animals to her shelter and save them. The robot finds all the frozen inhabitants of the island, warms them up, and gathers them around a small fire in her home. There are too many animals, and chaos quickly ensues. Fing can't calm such a crowd. Soon, Rose appears with Grizzly Bear. Her solar batteries are almost dead, and she must shut down soon. Thing demands that the animals calm down and put all their conflicts and problems aside until spring. Grizzly Bear agrees to winter peace. The other animals support him, and then Rose switches off. In spring, the sun appears in the sky, and our heroine is reactivated. All the animals have survived, and the wild geese are returning from their migration. Rose runs to the Yellowhammer and learns that he has become a true hero and the new leader of the flock. Suddenly, a Universal Dynamics ship arrives on the island, piloted by a specialized rescue robot named Vontra. They want to return Rose to the factory to study her memory and understand the cause of her strange behavior. Rose initially agrees, but Fing comes running and tells her that a Yellowing is looking for her. Our heroine escapes, and Vontra sends an army of scout robots after her. They remind Rose that she is in the middle of the wilderness. Rose responds that this is normal because she is a wild robot. Our heroine teams up with the island's inhabitants, and together they fight off their pursuers. Ultimately, Vantra blows up the defeated scout robots, starts a forest fire, and kidnaps Rose. Vantra erases all of Ross's memories and restores her to her default settings. Yellow Jacket leads a flock of wild geese, and the flock attacks the landing craft. Gosling finds Rose, but realizes that Vantra has already erased her memory. But thanks to her love for the Yellow Jacket, our heroine remembers everything and once again engages in battle with Vantra. Rose destroys her, but not before Vantra warns them that they will come back for her. The ship initiates a self-destruct sequence. Rose and Yellowfinch manage to escape before it explodes. Meanwhile, the islanders, led by Beaver, fell the largest tree in the forest onto the dam and destroy it. The water floods the burning forest, stopping the fire. It's a victory. No one considers Rose a monster anymore, but she remembers Vantra's words and realizes that because of her, this island will always be in danger. To protect her friends, Rose decides to return to Universal Dynamics. Some time passes, Rose is working in the greenhouse, and a Yellowing arrives. Ross still remembers everything and hugs his Gosling. The fox and the beaver plant a new tree. The local squirrel laughs at them, and an acorn flies at it.